Hey, we got a question about Tesla leases. Are you guys ready? Tesla currently only sells 10,000, 12,000, or 15,000 mile leases. Which one should you pick? Here's some facts about leases you might not already know, and I'm going to try and break it down for you in some example customers, and I'm going to have all this info for you, hopefully to earn your like and subscribe, but also to help you maybe narrow down your decision if you're maybe about to buy a lease from Tesla. Firstly, if you don't know how many miles a year you drive, do yourself a favor, go to your car right now with your smartphone, go sit in the driver's seat, look at how many miles are on your odometer, and then tell your phone, if you have an iPhone like I do, then you can say, remind me in 1 year at 2 p.m. that I currently have 22,543 miles, or whatever you have. Even if you already know what you kind of drive in a year, it'll be helpful to do this. When you lease from Tesla, they'll charge you 25 cents every mile you go over the lease. This is pretty standard, most companies will, but this is why it's important to decide how many miles you want to be paying for before you start your lease. For example, if you go 1,000 miles over your lease and you hand it back into Tesla, then you'll have to pay them $250 just because you went over your mileage limit. So let me break it down with some math for you real fast. If you were going to lease a Model 3 today, then the base monthly payment on that is $371 a month for 10,000 miles a year. If you bump that mileage limit up to 12,000 miles a year, then all of a sudden you're at $391 a month. That's the equivalent of another $720 over the course of an extra 6,000 miles of driving allowance before you get the car back in. Now let's do the math. If you were to lease the car for 10,000 miles and then go that same amount, 6,000 miles over times 25 cents per mile, when you return the car, you would owe Tesla $1,500 of a fee. Do you see where the math is checking out, that it makes a lot of sense to know exactly how many miles you want to drive before you get a lease? Number one, 10,000 miles per year. This is the smallest. This is most ideal for people who aren't doing a lot of driving in a year. Ideal customers here might be someone who owns a second car, and so they're not putting all of their yearly miles on one vehicle. Or maybe this customer doesn't drive very much. It's possible maybe they're elderly, they don't have a lot of appointments to take care of, or they get other Or maybe this customer doesn't drive very much. If maybe, let's say you're an elderly person and you don't do a lot of driving outside of your home, or whenever you do drive, maybe you take an Uber or a Lyft frequently, or anybody who travels a lot and not home often, or you're using Uber and Lyft anyways because most of the time you're getting taken to the airport and you're flying to whatever your next appointment is, then yeah, a smaller lease is going to be ideal. The downsides of doing 10,000 miles a year is going to be that it can be a bummer having to do that math. If you get even remotely close to 10,000 miles a year, then you will be checking out in your head like, hey, wait a minute, how am I doing with this car? Where is it? How close is it to where I need to be? Doing that much math that frequently can be a bummer. Number two, 12,000 miles a year. This is the most common. According to the US government, the national average number of miles driven in a year is 13,500. So at 12,000 miles, you're still a little bit under that, but it's doable. You can plan on making some of your trips by Uber or Lyft. You can plan on hitching a ride with a friend if you're ever going to be carpooling for trips. There are ways that you can stay under that limit and still enjoy your lease. The downsides of going with 12,000 miles are that you can pretty quickly go over that still, especially if your driving situation changes. And let me give you an example. I have a friend who is a mom, and she had a job working at retail, and she was a manager of a big store, and she was doing great, and they decided to transfer her to another store across town. And she had a lease, and that was the same car that she drove her kids to school in, same car that she drove back into work from, but she had it perfectly metered out how much driving she needed to do in a year until her company decided to move her. Now, it made sense to move, the financial package was there, but her lease ended up going quite a lot over what her original limit was, and she had to pay a very large fine, somewhere in the range of a few $1,000s when she gave her car back. Paying a fee when you give your car back is a bummer. Lots of things can happen in 3 years. So take a moment and think, what big changes do you possibly have coming up? Are you maybe in line for that big promotion? Do you possibly think you're going to move in the next few years? Any changes during your lease can affect it. Thirdly, 15,000 miles a year. And checking real fast, have I earned your like and subscribe yet? This is the largest and safest amount, and this is the second most common option that people will select. This is more than the national average in the US for how many miles people will drive in a year, so you're probably safe going this route. But it's worth being said that the first year of owning a Tesla, you're probably going to go over the mileage limit anyways. because it's a fun car to drive. I tell all of my clients that I work with, when you first get your car, start planning your first road trip. Even if you don't have any appointments in the area, go try doing just like an hour trip on the freeway. Go test out autopilot, go experience your car and its really cool features. And after that first trip, you're gonna find that you'll be like thinking, okay, when do I need to go driving next? Because I kind of want to try it again. So in the first year of a lease, it's not uncommon to go over your miles. The downsides of going with a higher mileage lease is that you don't get a refund on those miles. So if you're very on the fence and you have no idea what you're going to do here, then going 12,000 and only going 1,000 miles over is less expensive than going 15,000 miles a year and then not using all your miles. Does that make sense? So it's really important to be able to sit down with anybody else who's going to be driving the car and do some basic math and figure out exactly how much driving you guys are expecting to do in a year. Once you have that number in mind, that will totally boost your experience with the lease, and it'll give you some peace of mind throughout it, knowing that you planned ahead for this. Did I miss anything? Drop a comment below and let me know. Check out my video up here on the different interiors that Tesla sells. I put some good info in here that might help you. If you have a video idea, I'd love to consider it. Feel free to drop a comment below. Thank you sincerely for watching.